You know, I think this is probably the first time that we've had a meeting in this country of railroad workers together from different unions talking about what the hell is going on in the railroads. It's amazing. And I think that that is part of the problem that we're going to resolve here today. We're going to bring all workers together, railroad workers and all workers together to deal with this, and we have to deal with it. So our first speaker, and the others can introduce themselves, is John Palmer. He's an international vice president of the Teamsters Union and spoke up at the executive committee of the Teamsters Union saying the Teamsters should get behind demanding that there be health care for the residents of East Palestine. Woo!
Thank you, everybody. I feel like I might be a little complicit. I'm John Palmer. I live just north of San Antonio in Texas, lifelong Teamster. When I brought this up at our executive board, I was told that I could come here as an individual, but I can't represent the Teamsters Union. So that brings me to sort of the theme of what I'd like to say. When I got here, Chris mentioned the roadblocks, speed bumps and obstacles that he encountered trying to put the meeting together. And we've all done this when we try to do something, you know, there's always something that comes up, unexpected. I think the thing that I'm most driven about now is that, and you know, optimistic and also disappointed in, is that I think we've all grown up, I'm 65 years old, to believe that institutions were set in place to save us or protect us from the ills that affect us all. I spent most of my life very close to a train track on the east side of San Antonio. Excuse me. So we all, you know, this could be me. This could have been my kids. This could have been anybody. But we have to understand that the corporate dominance in this country now has removed all those protections, and that as a country, as a people, this isn't about union. This isn't. We're all working men and women. We're all middle class. The only way we're going to save our country, frankly, is not by electing somebody, but it's by standing together. We've got to push back collectively. You know, the powers that be have to hear us. And I think, you know, I'm excited that all these people, you know, I came here not on behalf of the Teamsters, but I came here because I'm a human being, and I care about people. And at the end of the day, we have to force those institutions to do the right thing. And I think lifelong, you know, bleed union, but I think we need to push our unions, and I think that's where we start. Anyway, I'm just touched, and my heart bleeds. It's, you know, it's easy to speak these words when you're not affected. I'm losing my mother right now. She's in hospice, Parkinson's, but God blessed her with a full life. And I pain for you guys when I hear the stories, and I know that I just heard a few of them. So I'll do everything I can to help you as a group. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Sandberg. I'm the president of the IAM Machinist Union that represents machinists on the railroads across the United States. We represent the mechanics that work on the locomotives. We have been actively telling Congress and everybody that would listen that something like this was going to happen. Yep. And we are here to stand in solidarity with the people of East Palestine and the other labor unions to see what we could do to help. Thank you.
You talk about what's going on. What's happening to
So you would think it has gotten as bad as it could be, but after having derailments similar to this, sometimes twice a week, the railroads still think that they should cut workers away from their from the work that they do to prevent things like this from happening. It's not just, well, we work in the shops, we work on the trains and parts of trains, we work on locomotives, but our brothers work on the tracks. You could see there have been track failures that have been causing derailments and deaths, really. This is the worst thing that has happened in the United States in a very long time, what happened here. And again, you know, we've tried and tried and tried to caution over this, but like my brother had said, that the corporate greed is really what has taken over here. They cannot make enough money. So they're starting to, in the last 5 years, they've probably furloughed about 2,000 to 3,000 of just machinists that work on the railroads. Across the Class 1 railroads, Norfolk Southern, CSX, BNSF, and the UP, and it never seems to be enough. They just keep cutting and cutting away from their maintenance that they used to do, and like I said, this is a result. Things like of what happened here are the result of what of the lack of maintenance that the railroads refuse to do. They refuse to do the required maintenance. And therefore, you know, this is what we end up with. And not only that, but they would rather assign workers that aren't trained to do the work of inspecting locomotives, and they'd rather have them look at locomotives so that they can miss what we call FRA defects. And we've made a mountain of information to give to the FRA and explain to the FRA. FRA is the Federal Railroad Administration. They're a part of the Department of Transportation, and nothing has really changed. So you can see we put together some signs. The Rail Safety Act is something that we believe can help, you know, help with this situation of putting trains that are going to explode eventually on the tracks and prevent them from being used, and make sure that they are being repaired beforehand. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Let me first say I'm honored to be here and humbled to be here. It's devastating, heartbreaking to listen to the stories of the local community members. My name is George Waxmunsky. I'm the president of the United Electrical Radio Machine Workers of America, the Eastern Region, I should say. National president, but like that. I cover 14 states from North Carolina, West Virginia, and pretty much everything up through New England. My hometown is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, born and raised there. A little bit about my union, the UE. It's a member-run union. We're formed in 1936. Our Constitution says that nobody on staff can make any more money than the highest paid worker we represent. We're pretty proud of that. I've been on staff for about 30-some years. I got some pretty soft hands, but I'm not afraid to work. I just put a roof on, and I remembered what a callus is, so I'm suffering. But we represent workers in the rail industry or rail-related industry. Our members work at companies primarily called Helcon. And these are van drivers who transport the railroad workers from the train to the hotel or from the train back to their hometown. These folks suffer a lot of illnesses due to the pollution in the air that they have to breathe by being around locomotives. We also represent Wabtec workers up in Erie, Pennsylvania, where they make the locomotives. On behalf of tens of thousands of UE members across this country, we oppose our tax dollars going for war, greed, profit. Yeah! And we support tax dollars going to the working class for healthcare, education, environment, retirement. Yeah! We believe in rank and file militant aggressive struggle. And when this was brought to my attention a few weeks ago, and I'm very grateful that it was brought to my attention, I took a resolution that's being proposed to support the residents of East Palestine and the workers around the community to my eastern region, and we unanimously endorse that resolution and endorse your struggle here.
Hell yeah.
My father was a railroad worker. He worked out a railroad Conway Yard. He worked for Pennsylvania Railroad, Penn Central, Amtrak, and maybe a couple others, I don't know. But back then, as a child, you know, I remember him getting the phone call. He had to go to work. He lived by that phone. You couldn't leave the phone, because if you missed that call, you lost out on a day's pay. You didn't know when that call was going to come back. It might be a couple days. So anyhow, I remember him getting those calls and being called for being an engineer on the train, or a fireman, or a brakeman, or a conductor, or a guy in a caboose. And I don't know what they call that guy, but I don't even know if anybody knows what a caboose is anymore. Because they're down to 2 people on a train. I recently read the financial report for NS, and they refer to this tragedy, this devastation, as an incident. The Eastern Ohio incident, and how they had to pay out so much money for this, and it offset their profits for that. And billions of dollars in profit they made, and they refer to it as an incident. That this is all you are today, is an incident. And that this is all we are as human beings, is just an incident. Basically roadkill on the train to profit and greed. There's a song out there, and I'm a Bruce Springsteen freak, so I'm sorry about that, but it's called Death to My Hometown. And as I was preparing for today, I listened to that song, and it just really hits home for what you guys are dealing with. It's something else, a song you can identify with. You know, the people here have lost their jobs, they've lost their businesses, they've lost their health care, their health, their homes, their neighborhoods, their future, their joy of having a community, your life, your identity. You've lost friends and families due to death, disease, illness, and it's as if you've been stripped or skinned of everything that you know is the world around you, that you grew up with, your community. And so where are the lobbyists for the people of East Palestine? And where are the lobbyists for even the businesses? You know, the Chamber of Commerce around here, but it's a little itty bitty Chamber of Commerce, so they don't have a voice either. And where are the lobbyists for us, the people of East Palestine? Well, they say you have congressmen and you have senators, and they are supposed to represent you. Well, we know that's a joke, because who owns them? NS owns them. The capitalists in Wall Street owns them. We have 1,500 derailments a year, 1,500 potential disasters a year. In Pittsburgh, I can tell you about around 1994, there was a derailment just about a half mile from my house. Fortunately, it did not suffer the disaster. But had it been similar to what you folks have gone through, you know, there would have been thousands of people killed probably. And, you know, tens of thousands suffering what you're suffering. God forbid it didn't happen then. But I was there. I remember something talking about us evacuating, but we didn't have to. Our railroads need to be nationalized. Our communities need protected. Our workers need protected. We need a coalition of labor, environment, social justice, religious, and every other organization out there. Because as the brothers have said, and you've said, we can't do this alone. We all have to come together. We know what the problem is in this country, and the country's bought and sold. The people who are in government are bought and sold. For the most part, we have some good representatives in. Yes, they're hard to find, I know, but there's a few out there who have our interests, but there's so few. We need a movement, a rank and file militant movement, of aggressive struggle.
That's what?
It's going to join a coalition and fight back. We need more workers on the train. We need an upgrade to the car-by-car braking system. We need less cars on the train. We need green locomotives to cut down on all the pollution and trillions of carbon emissions and carcinogens that come out that are poisoning every community every day of the week and every year. I mean, the devastation that's brought here is about greed. Capitalism promotes greed. Look at the East Palestine and you see the effects of capitalism and greed and profit and devastation in its wake. You can see it in every city, state, and small town. The homeless, the drug addicted, the poverty stricken. This is America, and this is unchecked capitalism. And the only way we change this, or at least have any check on it, is when workers unite. We're all workers. 99% of everybody in this country works for somebody who are getting filthy rich off our back. And so the only way we can change this is when we all unite and stop letting ourselves be divided by race, color, creed, sexual orientation, age. You know, I hear so many older folks talking about this younger generation that they ain't no good. I'm like, don't you remember when you were the younger generation? We weren't no good either. We had long hair, we had tattoos, we had piercings, and oh my God, the world was going to end. These kids are lazy. So, you know, I believe in our next generation. I see a lot of young people. They're there, all you got to do is look. You know, you don't have to quit listening to the radio and the TV telling you everything's bad in the world. We got a lot of good things going on if we come together. So we have no faith in the Republicans or Democrats, but we need national health care. We need a nationalized rail system. We need President Biden to enact the Stafford Act as a first step to restoring and making whole the people of East Palestine. And it's just so glad to be here and look out and see you all and know that so many different groups are represented and people care. And this is my first time here, and it's been very moving for me. And I want you to know the UE, the United Electrical Radio Machine Workers of America, stand in solidarity with you. We will continue to put out your information and promote your cause in any way that we can. So I've taken a bit of time, but thank you very much.
Good evening, or good afternoon. I got a text or email about a golf course, and I came to play golf and run into a bunch of communists and lefties and whatnot. I just want the FBI to know I'm here by accident. I didn't even know that there was a East Palestine until the derailment. How many people here from East Palestine?
Biden can't even say East Palestine. He calls us East Palestine, so thank you.
I'd have called you East Palestine myself, but I heard East Palestine often enough to try to get it correct. But what's happening here might offend some people. I'm glad my brother's here from the Teamsters, from the Machinists, UE. My name is Christopher. I bring solidarity greetings from Teamsters Local 808 in Long Island City, New York. And we stand in solidarity with the struggles of all working people. But I'll tell you that if I gave you somebody that was running for Congress who stood for all the issues that you want, Medicaid, Medicare, socialized medicine, nationalize the railroads and what have you, you wouldn't vote for them.
Right, amen.
You vote against your own interests.
Yes.
Time and time and time again. You vote for lawyers instead of truck drivers. You vote for lawyers instead of plumbers. You vote for lawyers instead of nurses. So what you want in your head, you don't want in reality because you want actually to join the ruling class. I just played my lottery so you know where I want. But if we want to change things, then we have to create that change.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be the Democrats and it ain't going to be the Republicans. You're going to have to build a party for working people, funded by you. Your $5, your $10, because if you think, I was just looking at something as I was coming here this weekend, totally unrelated, but all these organic things you buy in the supermarket, they all been bought up by the massive corporations. If you want to make money, buy stock in a railroad. It is the single most profitable business in America, not oil, not automobile, nothing else, railroads. You change it when you decide to vote for something else. And don't worry about some third guy running for president. You have to start at the town council, at the city council, at the school board. When they see that change coming up the hill, then they will understand that you have changed. And that's going to make the society change. It ain't some kind of magical thing we're going to run. Because if I became the president tomorrow, and the Congress was all Democrats and Republicans, I couldn't get anything done. And we can witness that right now. Right? So we have to build from the bottom to the top. But we can make it change, but we have to invest in it. So we have to stop listening to MSNBC and Fox and Rends and CNN. Pick up a book.
A what?
Kindle. Some printed product. But don't just read one kind, read many kinds. And don't just read it and absorb it. After you finish reading it, look out the window and what they describe look like what you're seeing. Because none of this changes overnight, but it's doable. And our unions fail because we have the resources to be an accelerant. And we fail. We ostracize my brother Palmer because we don't even like dissent in the union, an organization that was created around dissent with capitalists. So we have work to do. And when I get another text about coming to the golf course, I'll be here. I'll leave my clubs home the next time, but I'll be here. But we have work to do. We can do it. I felt your pain today. I didn't know any of the people here, but I felt that pain. And I knew it had happened. And it's one thing to kind of read in the newspaper. It's another thing to see and meet the people who it happened to and hear their stories. And I appreciate your stories. And those stories need to be on TV. They don't need to be on YouTube. They need to be on CNN and Fox and MSNBC so the world can hear your stories and understand what happened here.
I'm working on it.
Hey, well, I tell me what you need, and if I can help, I'm there with you.
Yeah.
But we need to understand this because this should not happen anywhere. And listen, accidents are going to happen. But at least when they happen, our government and these corporations should be on the hook instantly, instantaneously. It shouldn't be a debate. It shouldn't be a question. I'm going to leave you with this. Power to the people. And to the people belong the power.
Oh, yeah. Amen.
Okay, so now is going to be an opportunity for questions, comments, discussion. If you want to speak, sister over there. If you want to come up here, you can speak to the mic.
Thank you all for all of your work and knowledge. I'm Melanie Mead, coming from Clairton, Pennsylvania. Solidarity with each and every one of you, knowing what you all experience, and I hope that we can connect on emotional support because we all need it, and especially what we've seen through the pandemic. But I noticed I hadn't been out much after the pandemic, and on a travel, now that I have a car, I was stopped at a railroad crossing for over 20 minutes. And I guarantee you there were over 30 cars on one. And another on the opposite line was idling. Is there any laws? Have there been any laws that would say, let's minimize this, let's not have opposing train coming in or coming through? And do you see any of that being possible within your all's time of work?
Okay, thank you for that question. The Rail Safety Act, please look it up. And part of it is that there's a great issue in the United States today due to something called precision scheduled railroading. It's a scheme.
Yep.
The scheme is a scam, right? Where the railroads are creating trains that are sometimes between 3 miles long, and 5 miles long. And that's, you know, it has always been an issue to get across a grade crossing where a train might be parked, like the sister said, or a train might be traveling, right? But it's such a great issue now because that same train blocks 5 or 6 crossings rather than just maybe 1 or 2 where it used to. So it creates a safety concern for the public, where the public is not only, you know, they're not able to do their everyday business of going across the railroad tracks, but ambulances aren't able to go across the tracks. We have, you know, we've created videos where we've seen children trying to get to school climbing across railroad equipment, and it's ridiculous. And part of the bill that we're trying to pass is to work on correcting that. And it could be corrected in a number of ways, but really the best way would be not to have trains that long. And again, it's pretty new. It's a new scheme or scam that they run where they try to run as many cars on a train as possible in order to reduce their cost, right? So yes, it is something that we've been actively working on getting a law passed, and it has been a great issue for many people.
And they shouldn't drive trains that have literally 7 different types of chemicals on the same train.
Right.
Because exactly what they did in our town of East Palestine was they drove a bomb through.
Right.
And when that bomb caught on fire,
100%.
if you look up the rules,
It mixed everything together.
if you look up the rules on that, which I did, there's loopholes.
Yeah.
And that's what they did to get away with having that many chemicals on one train. That needs change.
Right.
Sorry.
I started on the railroad in 1978, and the railroad is 50% less workers today than in 1978. Those are good paying jobs then, they're good paying jobs now. We allowed it to happen. There used to be a locomotive engineer, a fireman, the conductor, and some guys in the caboose, right? For whatever reason, I've never been in a caboose. I don't know what they were doing back there, but but they were there.
He doesn't like cabooses.
No, I like cabooses, but let me say this. My first wife's grandfather worked for Bethlehem Steel, one of those steel companies in Gary, Indiana. He was able to retire with a pension and lifetime medical coverage. He was able to go at 80-something years old to the Mayo Clinic, one of the premier medical facilities, and get a full body angioplasty. Didn't cost him a dime. Today, you believe you don't have a right to that. Right? So this society has convinced you to work for $17 an hour. I just met a guy at a Microtel hotel that told me that the manager of the Microtel hotel makes $16 an hour. I bet you went to college.
Yeah.
Right? We have allowed this to happen. Right? If you go to Germany, McDonald's pays a living wage in Germany. Why do we allow in our society for any place to have self-checkout? You don't get no discount.
Right?
That's a job that somebody could do, calculating and, We allow this to happen. So at some point, you have got to push back. Fight back. Build another revolutionary movement.
We're trying.
It's doable. But don't be disjointed because they're all connected to each other. What happens in the UAW affects what happens to the SEIU. What's happening in East Palestine affecting somebody in West Virginia. It is the same struggle because all of this is about profit. Instead of 10 locomotive engineers with 20 conductors, it's 5 locomotive engineers and 5 conductors. You cut the workforce in half. My math might have escaped me a while ago, but I was never good at it. But it's all about increasing profit. In the 70s, I never heard of a billionaire. But when we lost pensions and when we lost health care, when we lost all of these things, the billionaires showed up. Because all that money went into their pocket. The tax cuts that you want to see happen, that you don't get it. Right? So some guy goes, I'm going to raise taxes on everybody making over 400,000. You make 80,000 and think they're talking to you. Now I understand if you made 380,000 and you thought, next year they're going to grab me. So we have to become very clear about what this struggle is and what is it about and what are we trying to get to. Because everything we're trying to get to, somebody identifies as socialism. Universal health care. Good schools, good rail, right? Good highways, good health care. That's socialism.
I just wanted to go back to what the sister was talking about a little earlier. I worked in what's called the LTL freight industry, which means we picked up anything you can imagine, anything in this room, including hazardous materials. I had to have a hazmat endorsement on my license. We were not allowed to put certain chemicals together on a loaded truck. Those, and I hope my brother would help me a little bit because I don't want to speak for the rails. But that should be the rule. If I signed off on that and it wound up on a trailer when it got to the other end, I'm in trouble. I shouldn't have done that. We have to placard those trucks. I see those placards. I know what they mean on the rail. I see those placards. We have that. There's no excuse for safety. I mean, we lived through an era where people got their fingers cut off in machinery. It still happens in places where we employ folks who, frankly, are many of them are undocumented workers that are coming here for a better life, and they're scared to call OSHA. They're scared to do these things. They're passing out, dying on the shop floor, and even in some of our facilities, they're walking across their bodies while they're being tended to because you can't stop working. This is insane.
I just wanted to make a comment. I know I spoke to human health, but I wanted to speak to precision scheduling and some of the things that went wrong in East Palestine. The first thing was the inspection of the tankers. They cut the inspection time. We actually found out that this one had missed an inspection. Another one of the issues was that this train was on fire for 30 miles and people were reporting it to our first responders, but they couldn't get a hold of the conductor. They had to call Georgia, where they had one girl working that was dealing with 5 incidences. You know, you talk about the conductor. There was one conductor on this train. Allegedly, it's when you have a derailment, you disconnect that engine and you move it up a mile away. Our firefighters didn't even know what they were dealing with. No one knew where this manifest was. We knew it was with, the conductor, but nobody knew where he was. NORFOLK Southern had that manifest to their cleanup crew within minutes of the derailment. It took over 4 hours Our firefighters were told this is malt liquor that's on fire, treat it like a house fire. You know, we talk about these black boxes. You know, everybody's heard of these planes crashing and them finding the black box. There's no regulation that says that the railroads have to keep their black boxes after an accident. They put the engine right back into service and recorded over all but 5 minutes of this accident. You know, these are all things, again, that we need to open our eyes to. I didn't know about precision scheduling before this. In fact, I'd never even thought of a train derailing full of chemicals. You know, you look at railroad tracks, you think about your car stalling, your foot getting stuck, walking across to it. I've lived there for 47 years and never once did I think this was gonna happen or even consider that it was a possibility. So those were just a couple of ways that I know that precision scheduling has impacted what happened in East Palestine. There was a bill introduced in Ohio to require at least 2 people on every train, and guess who's fighting it? NORFOLK Southern.
You want me to comment on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, you
Oh,
should.
yeah, yeah,
You should.
So I'd just like to comment again about the scam that precision scheduled railroading is. We know, you know, it's common information that this train that we're talking about went through at least 3 what they call hot box detectors. And each one of those hot box detectors told them that they should stop that train and cut that car because that was a problem. And Norfolk Southern decided to run it anyway, right? That's what happened. And like another thing, you know, that happens, but that's really changed is, well, we talked a little bit about this, but each car, they allow 1 minute to inspect. 30 seconds per side. That is.
The time it takes to walk the length of the car,
Well,
you're supposed to inspect.
It probably takes longer to walk.
That's what I was about to say.
And now what they've gotten to is riding alongside with like something like a golf cart, but that could go on ballast, right? So they ride by it, and that's how they're forced to do their inspections. So they used to get at least 5 minutes a car to inspect, right? It's just like with the locomotives. They want unskilled workers to inspect the locomotives so that they don't find the problems. Now, the real problem with all of this is that each railroad, we talk about regulation, each railroad they're their own regulator. And that is really a problem. So, and you know, this law that we're trying to pass, it's not perfect, but at least it will give us some teeth to go after them and force them to do what they're supposed to do.
Can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry, I apologize. We were told that a train cannot travel through an evacuated town. So when they did this big explosion, they dug out the burn pits, they just covered all the contamination and built their tracks back up. They had no testing done before they lifted the evacuation. Trains were waiting to go back through town. So, you know, once they built these tracks back over the contamination, eventually the EPA came in and said, you have to clean this up. But they only cleaned it up 1 track at a time so that they could keep that other track running. And I honestly believe the only reason why they lifted that evacuation, not because it was safe, to get those trains back up and running. They were losing like millions of dollars
Right.
a day.
Because there was no other way to get that, to get those trains through anywhere else.
Right.
Certain things ain't never gonna change. Almost half the things move on rail, you know, in terms of you're gonna do some things. But when you evacuate the town, right, the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna make sure that people have proper housing. People have somewhere to go to. People, you know what I'm saying? So that you do the things that don't force these. I would never want to buy I don't know who wants to buy a house in East Palestine. Not me. Right? Who wants to buy a house in Love Canal where they had some years ago? Nobody. Right? So at some point you have to do the right thing. The problem is that we live in a society that does not want to do anything near the right thing. Right? which is to protect the interests of the people. So it's not that these railroads wouldn't have profit. It'd just be a little less, right? So instead of 100 billion, it'd be 90 billion. You can't make it on a $90 billion profit. Profit, right? So this is what we're fighting against. That's why I said, when you come to the conclusion that you're sick of this system, right? Because like I told you years ago, half the workforce has been gone. Good jobs, people that had family, people that wanted to have bills to pay, gone, right? 30 seconds, what can you can't even blink your eye good in 30 seconds, right? You couldn't dial 7 numbers in 30 seconds. I mean, this is horrendous, but we accept it and we watch the news and we look at the airplanes. What's wrong with Boeing today? Half of Boeing airplanes now are made in China. Not to blame the Chinese workers, but you ain't went to China to get better. They moved work to South Carolina. What was that governor over there? Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley says you could bring the factory, don't bring that union. She understands what the union does to the working people, right? So now you have an inferior product. They now inspect these FAA inspections on these airplanes. They're being done in El Salvador. I ain't got nothing against El Salvador. I don't even trust my neighbor, much less some guy in El Salvador. Because if you can't get it done here, why not? Why not? When did this become problematic? But we accept it, right? So we need to start to ask, and not ask, demand from these railroads, from these people that's in Washington, pass the safety, what's it called?
Rail Safety Act.
Pass the Rail Safety Act. Is it the best thing? No, but it's better than what you got right now. So you got to move step by step in one direction, right? So everybody here got to make that commitment. Call your senator, call your congressperson, call one of them crooked people down in Washington, D.C. and say, pass this. Because they're still subject to the vote at the end of the day. Right? Still subject to one person, one vote. We have to stand up.
Just a couple comments, and these guys are amazing, just listening to them. In the caboose, I think the guy in the caboose was to deal with fire. He was supposed to watch the train from the back end to make sure it wasn't on fire and to make sure nobody was stealing nothing. So, and we had the caboose, somebody could be watching from the back.
And derailments, because a train could jump.
You could see that. They even actually had a fireman on the trains back then. I don't know what his job was, but, you know, and again, like the brothers were saying, there was a time, a long, long time ago, when workers stood up and fought back, and we changed the world. You know, and they say make America great again. Well, make America great again was the 50s. That's right. That's when unions were strong. Yes. That's when we had a militant labor movement, and we did it once. We can do it again. So have hope. It's not like it can't be done. We can do this. We can organize it. We can change the world. And
the rich paid their taxes.
And the rich paid their taxes. Wouldn't that be nice? But as we step forward, again, as the brother said, as we step forward, we got to grow. We can never just step forward and be happy with our success, because it's just the Rail Safety Act is a step forward, as it was said. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's a significant improvement. So we still got to we win that, we got to keep going forward. You know, the struggle never ends. No. The tiger is always going to eat. And we, the working people, are the lunch, because they're not going to eat their own. You know, the railroad's not going to eat the gas. Well, it would eat the gas company if it could, or the electric company. But but the workers are the most vulnerable lunch to eat. So the only way to put your hands up and fight back is to have a union, and a strong militant union that's going to fight the fight.
I wanted to also, I think it's important that people working people especially think about AI. Because AI, the Goldman Sachs has said 350 million workers are going to lose their jobs around the world. And right now there's like a speculation of these AI companies in San Francisco. These big capitalists are investing billions and billions of dollars into AI. And you already have the effect of that with robo-taxis. I don't know if people know, there are robo-taxis in San Francisco. They just expanded it to the Peninsula and Los Angeles. And these robo-taxis, they changed the rules in California so they don't have to really pass a DMV test, Department of Motor Vehicles. So these robo-taxis cannot back up. And we have earthquakes in California. And in an earthquake, these cars stop. So if you're in a crowded street and there's an earthquake, these cars stop and they will block ambulances and taxis. People will die with these taxis, robo-taxis. And they want to get rid of landlines as well, AT&T, these companies. People need landlines in rural areas when you have bad cell interference. But what's driving AI is to eliminate the working class. It's being developed not to help people, it's being developed to increase their profits. And the fact of the matter is, working people in this country are not prepared. They're not prepared. We have to educate working people about AI, about logistics, because they're going to get rid of hundreds of thousands, millions of workers. There's no warning from the labor movement. They've had some meetings, but they're not educating. They're not saying, look, I'm in favor of AI and development. It should help working people, not the billionaires.
Yes, that's right.
But that has to be fought for, and you have to understand what's coming. And people are unprepared for what's coming in this country. Think about it. They don't need workers. If they can get rid of all the railroad workers and run pilotless planes and pilotless trains, they will do it in a minute.
Never know.
They will do it. Pilotless ships.
Trucks are here.
Trucks are here. In California, there was a bill by the Teamsters Union, get this, to say that if you're going to have a robo truck over 10,000 pounds, you have to have a driver.
Right?
Over 10,000 pounds. And Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed the bill. In other words, you're going to have trucks on the highways over 10,000 pounds driving without a driver. That's a threat to the lives of health and safety. But the reality is, and this is the epitome of what's happened in East Palestine, they don't give a damn. When they covered the 1 year anniversary here, there was a rally. I saw a picture of it. Healthcare. We need healthcare. People rallied out there. We've got to have health. Was there one interview on CNN, Fox, NBC, anywhere saying that these people in East Palestine have lost their healthcare? One person who lost their healthcare. Nobody. So that tells us that we have to break the information blockade. We have to get the stories out ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it. And that's part of what we're doing at this conference, breaking the information blockade of what is really going on. And the fact of the matter is, this did not have to happen. In fact, in Europe and Japan, they don't have derailments like this every day. They don't. So why is it in America, great America, that we have these railroad derailments every day? Why? It's because of the system. A system that puts the railroad companies in charge. And the other thing I want to add, I saw EPA put out a statement saying that there was no problem with dioxin. There's no problem with that. I mean, can you imagine that? This is the EPA, which is to protect our health and safety, putting out a statement saying there's no problem. These agencies, the EPA, the Department of Transportation, OSHA, have been captured by the very companies that are supposed to regulate.
That's right.
That's another problem. Because we pay taxes to get regulation, the agencies themselves are controlled by these companies. So they allowed it. EPA allowed them. I mean, imagine, allow Norfolk Southern to do the cleanup, allow the company that created this disaster to be in charge of cleaning up, to be in charge of taking surveys of what the dangers are. It's not going to happen. We are not going to get protection. And the labor movement and working people have to start organizing themselves. There used to be a health and safety movement in this country. Rank and file, organized in every shop floor. It's no longer there. Workers are afraid, in my union, when I was working as a stationary engineer, people were afraid to speak up when they're getting poisoned. And they're union members. How could that be? You're afraid to speak up and you're getting poisoned on the job? This is what we're talking about. So I think we got a lot of work to do, but the first thing is to get the information out, get the stories out so people know what we're confronting. That's the first story. Thank you.